Hey everybody, and welcome back to Dude's Brunch, a podcast about pop culture, internet garbage, and black coffee. I'm your host, Taylor Olmstead, and with me this week, it's my good buddy, Tyler Reed. Tyler, what'd you have for brunch today?
Hey everybody. Whew. Today was a day. I woke up at 5 a.m. right after a glorious tiki party with my good friend Michael. I had about 4 or 5 hours of sleep. And so for brunch today, I had standard coffee pouring breakfast burrito with bacon. But this time I said add avocado to it. It was an alright decision. Made it very creamy. I feel like it didn't really need that. Probably won't do that again, but that's fine. And I had a morning glory muffin, which is basically just a carrot cake muffin. And it was just okay.
It's very fall
And
of
I had
you.
a brew, which is... Yeah, it is very, very fall. But we have it all the time. And I also had a brew, which is cold brew and chocolate milk or mocha powder and milk. So it basically just tastes like chocolate milk. And I'm like, this is dangerous. It is so good. And I'm like, it's almost like there's no coffee in it at all.
That's very dangerous.
But I mean, it's cold brew, so that means it was dangerous. It's real dangerous, guys.
Emily Bamforth is here. Emily, what did you have for brunch today?
Hi. I went to bed at a reasonable hour, but I still woke up at 10 because I'm not a morning person. So when I got up, we made eggs and waffles. And it was delightful.
Nice.
Yeah, it's very pleasant. I did not have any coffee because I have yet to find decaf coffee that I really like.
That's tough.
It is. My life is hard.
Why do you have to have decaf? I feel like you might have told us.
Yeah, I quit having caffeine in May, I think, because I was drinking 5 cups a day and it was making me very ill. So,
Well, that's something.
I'm either all in or I'm all out. Those are
Right.
those are the two options.
And also, like I was saying off screen, I got a Chemex, so I've been having just way too much coffee for anyone's needs all the time. So I'm like, oh, what have I done?
Well, I'm your host, Taylor, and last night I took a beer recommendation from a friend, and I didn't exactly read the label too closely. So I had 2 gin and tonics and then started drinking this beer, and about halfway through it realized it was 12%.
Shit.
So this morning, when I woke up, I decided I needed to make a McDonald's run because I was not in a state to cook my own food.
Oh no, Taylor got silly on the goofy juice.
Oh my god.
It was delicious. I just need to drink it by itself next time and not after 2 cocktails. But
I like how both of us are like, oh, you got hungover.
I mean, it doesn't take much, honestly. But that's not the craziest part of this story. I mean, honestly, that's pretty much par for the course. I went to McDonald's, and I tried to get into line, but I couldn't figure out if the person standing in front of me or next to me was in line or not, because he was standing there pointing around the McDonald's manically and talking to himself. And I was like, well, this is
Atlanta.
bizarre. So I got in line, waited for a few minutes, a few people went up, and then that guy just walks in front of the whole line, puts down a stack of quarters on the counter, and orders a cup of coffee. And then he gets his coffee, and apparently he left. He was out of my line of sight and away from me, so I was like, okay, guess he probably took his coffee outside and is on with his day. And so I get my food, and I sit down, and I'm like, awesome. I'm just gonna enjoy this sausage egg McMuffin right now, and then I'm gonna get out of this McDonald's. And lo and behold, a juggalo couple sits down at the table next to me. They are wearing onesies. His is a Care Bear onesie, and hers is a poop emoji onesie. And you're probably thinking, how do you make the poop emoji a onesie? Well, it's just a brown onesie, but the face that is on a hood is the poop emoji. But she couldn't put the hood on over her Harley Quinn hair.
You had an interesting morning.
It took.
Wait, so what happened to the rambling guy? Did he is that his end of the story was just over at that point?
He disappeared. I don't know. Maybe he evaporated into the ether. I became a little more distracted by the juggalos.
Right. I mean, rightly so.
Whoop
What
whoop.
were they eating?
They were eating McDonald's breakfast.
Yeah, but
Now-
what specifically?
I was not paying attention. I was trying not to look at them for fear that they might try
Why?
and make me one of them. They would assimilate me
One
into the
of
family.
us. One of us.
Yeah. Whoop whoop.
Whoop whoop, indeed. Whoop
So-
whoop, indeed.
So wait, how could you identify them as juggalos?
Tattoos.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Then they just could be enthusiasts. I think they got.
If you have a Hatchet Man tattooed on your neck, you're a juggalo.
Okay, all right, that's pretty fair.
Thank you. Thank you for validating my experience, Tyler. I really needed that.
To add a counterpoint to your awful morning, I guess that was awful. I don't know if it was certainly interesting.
It certainly wasn't great.
Someone smeared poop in the bathroom this morning, so I didn't have to clean it up. So it could have been a worse day for me.
Oh, the world is a dark and scary place.
It is. I love Twitter.com.
Oh, gosh. Okay, well... Our topic this week... I don't even know whose idea this was. Was this your idea, Tyler? Was it Emily? What's going on here?
Well, I think Emily revealed herself as a fan at the same time I did, and so then I decided we should just talk about it. So, if you're not familiar, we're gonna be talking about Sugar Pine 7, or the Steven Suptic experience. And I think it was a couple weeks ago. Well, it's gonna be a couple weeks after the show airs. They won a Stringy Award. And so what I want to do is I wanted to kind of go back and I wanted to kind of share with everyone the show, see what they think about it, and then, just kind of talk about it and figure out how we got to where we are now. Beating out Phil DeFranco and various other high-profile YouTubers for a show or a channel that's only been around for like 6 months.
Jake Paul, for example. They beat Jake Paul. Like, I still cannot fathom how they beat both like Jake and Logan Paul. Their fan base is rabid.
So we should say
insane.
the Streamies are like the Oscars of YouTube, except they're voted on by fans. So it's maybe more like the People's Choice Awards of YouTube.
That's fair. To be fair, there's only 2 that are voted by fans, and everything else is like high-profile panelists. So the one that we're talking about is specifically the one that was fan voted, though.
And what was this award?
It was Show of the Year, and they won that. I pulled out the list of shows they were up against, which is Good Mythical Morning, Kian and JC. Not familiar. The King of Random, Phil DeFranco Show, React, Rooster Teeth, The Try Guys,
The fucking
and The Young Turks.
Try Guys.
So,
I'm surprised
I
they
think
beat out
Emily-
the Young Turks.
Why are you, like, out of all of them, you're surprised about the Young Turks?
I mean, it just seems like they're always really high on the trending.
So like, the frickin' Try Guys are a juggernaut, like, if you look at their views.
Yeah.
And, like, it's insane that Sugar Pine 7 managed to beat out all of these people, especially, like, people like Philip DeFranco, who have been around since pretty much the beginning of YouTube.
Well, and it's especially interesting, which I'm sure we're about to talk about this, with the connection that a lot of these people have to Philip DeFranco. They're essentially his proteges, right? Is that kind of what happened here?
I mean, yeah, pretty much. I mean, SourceFed essentially was sort of like his. I mean, it eventually became not his project anymore, but it was sort of like he really ran through like a bunch of really popular people, or he made a bunch of people really popular. Or I don't know. I don't actually know the chronological order of that, because like SourceFed in its origins was like Joe Beretta, Elliot Morgan,
And Lee Newton.
Lee Newton.
Yeah.
And I don't know I think that's sort of their big break, or that was, I think, the thing that a lot of people ended up knowing them for.
Yeah.
So I mean, it kind of became in some ways a hit factory. You know, it kind of lessened over time as you know. But they definitely put out a lot of people that I think are still making work and are doing stuff in the YouTube space. And of course, I was just gonna say, and so Steven Suptic was one of those people that kind of came out of that, and a lot of those people that also they're on the show, were sort of like interns or working their way into getting into, being part of the full team. I think somewhere behind the scenes doing production and stuff like that.
Yeah, Steve was later. Like, he was much, much later. He came in, like, basically, if I remember correctly, he came in when, like, most of the first round of people, like the old favorites, had cycled out. So he was part of that, like, second gen almost. And I think that he talks about SourceFed at the beginning of this project because it used to just be the Steven Suptic experience. And he had a lot of thoughts on SourceFed and why it kind of failed the way it did. But it's a complicated subject because, and I guess this is a huge victory for them because they did lose out in the whole we're working with Discovery, now we're not situation.
I'm familiar with all of this backstory. Mm-hmm. I think we've done a pretty good job of running it down for people who may not have been around in the YouTube space when that happened. What I'm less solid on is what happens next. So I remember
what the thing is.
Yeah, I remember seeing when it came out the series of videos that Steven Suptic made about the end of SourceFed. I think they were called like SourceFed is gone or something like that, and then why I think SourceFed ended. And
those were like two of them. Yeah.
There were like two or three right there at the beginning. And I remember watching those, and they were pretty much, I mean, they were kooky, but they were pretty much like straightforward vlog videos where he talked about what the title of the video was. That is not what this has become.
Everything changed.
What is this?
So I mean, it's called alternative lifestyle, and so I would even just say, when you say that word that thing out loud, what does that mean to you? I think we should start there, and then let's figure out like what.
It sounds like people who are polyamorous or swingers. That's what that sounds like to me.
Yeah, so I was talking to my roommate about this after I watched the episodes before we started recording. And he was like, so it's an alternative lifestyle vlog. It's not a vlog about alternative lifestyles. And I was like, yes, that's correct. Because you could easily construe it as that, but it's really like an alternative to a lifestyle vlog, like a Casey Neistat or... what's the guy's name? The skateboarder, Sean just something. Casey Neistat.
Yeah, what's funny about the whole thing is that it doesn't even... What's funny is it shouldn't fit in the same genre at all. It's almost like a parody of that, which is what I find really entertaining. It's like literally nothing else that I have seen on YouTube. Like, I have not happened across any content like Sugar Pine Sevens.
Sure. So, I mean, essentially what it boils down to is that it's pretty traditional. Well, it starts off pretty traditional as like a vlog, in that it's a guy talking, something happens, we're done. But I think what makes it kind of go off the rails is that it's sort of scripted, sort of not scripted. And then there's lots of, much like how Casey Neistat has very cinematic shots that he usually does, and there's sort of like a little bit more like sort of creativity added to it that kind of makes it this sort of, it feels much more like an art piece than most vlogs do, where it's just kind of like a thing happens. You're like, that's it. We went shopping. Except in this one, we go shopping and there's like someone gets possessed by a devil.
It's one of those things where I think that it's working off everything that worked for other vloggers. Like it is, if you don't know what's happening, it does feel like it could be a Casey Neistat or a Sam Sheffer or a different kind of deal, but it's like it's that combination. It's like improv / scripted comedy. And what I really love about it is that they've solidified such a cast of characters on there that like people now have their favorites outside of Steve, because honestly, like, he's the blandest one out of all of them, in my opinion.
Oh, that's not fair.
It's true though. He is like
he's a straight man. He's got to keep it all together.
Yeah, but like that's the point, right? Is like people came for him originally, and now they're there for like Kib or like Parker or like
Sure.
I'm always there for Kib, but that's not the point.
You would be.
But so I think there's a few things I want to talk about. So I guess we'll talk about it. Yeah. So their channel rose like almost meteorically. They're at a million subscribers in basically less than a year, and that's crazy. It felt like everyone who was a fan of SourceFed, he was making content, and then they just fled to that. They're like, let's watch this, and I feel like that had a lot to do with it. And then the content started really getting good, and people were really into it, and it kind of had like a sort of virality to it. You think that's fair to say?
Yeah, totally. I think that it's definitely that there are people that have risen faster, but they rose significantly quickly, and they found their voice significantly quickly too. Like, it did start out in like that very straightforward vlog style, but they found this like thing that worked very early on, where it could have taken a lot of people a little bit longer.
And so Taylor has you've seen very little, correct?
I've seen about 5 episodes of this total, and there are over 100.
So right. So I feel like this is kind of like a thing in like our for some reason in entertainment. It's kind of like a "don't hug me, I'm scared" kind of thing, where it's like, how long did it take for you to be like, they're acting like a little bit. They're like something's up. How long do you think it took you into an episode?
So I'm trying to remember, they all kind of bleed together, and so I'm trying to remember which one I watched first.
I understand.
I think the one I watched first is the one where they go to the cabin.
Mm-hmm.
And if I remember correctly, there's a scene in that one where Steven goes to Parker's house and confronts him about the fact that he hasn't shipped out any of the posters that they sold. And right. I think that was the moment, because that scene is already weird, and then that's like the first time in that episode where he does the thing where he will freeze the frame, desaturate it a little bit, and then give like a reality show reflective monologue voiceover of what just happened and his reaction to it. So he'll be like, I could tell that Parker was lying to me and he hadn't actually sold any of the posters, and then it like goes on doing whatever it was.
And I think he then puts his head under the faucet.
No, that's in a later episode when he's
right.
already sold all the posters, and now Steven wants the money from the posters. But there's also the scene in that cabin episode where I think where it started to lose me a little bit, where they go sledding.
Right.
And Parker gets in a tiny little bit of a creek and starts flailing around as if he's drowning, and the other guys have to go save him. And like, I understand why this is funny, but there's something about it that just feels really like sophomoric to me. Mm-hmm. Where I feel like they just kind of like punt on jokes like that sometimes in a way that I feel like they could have like thought about it for just a little bit longer and made it a lot funnier. But they're trying to move quickly and do the improv thing, and so the joke doesn't always get completely fleshed out.
But I think that that's something that needs to stay. Is the thing, is that the whole thing feels so, at the risk of doing shit like that, because I know what you're talking about. I completely agree. But like, the whole thing for being scripted feels so freaking organic. And that's if they stop and they like analyze, then I feel like they lose it. And they churn out content so fucking quickly.
Yeah, they're doing like 4 videos a week, right?
Something like that. Right, Tyler?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So like there's something very organic there, and I get it. Like, you can't be like, oh yeah, well, like jokes cannot be funny because time, but like at the same amount, like, I think it does still have that, like, very organic improv bit to it, which you noted, but, like, you can't lose that.
Yeah.
If that
Sure.
makes sense.
And I will say that also, there are times when I'm like, do I want to keep watching these?
Yeah.
But, because it's like, you're like, oh god, this, like, these characters are just, sometimes they just get a little gradient, and the situations are just a little like, alright, like, we should, like, the ones that I provided, the ones that were basically suggested as a good starter videos, those are within the realms of reasonable reality. You're like, okay, well, I mean, Parker gets possessed by a demon, but I mean, that's fine. That's, I mean, there's, the latest episode is like this cinematic, like, 30-minute piece where, like, James has been this thing called, like, pretending to be like this water warrior, which is this like ex-combat, like, secret operative thing, and he was an orphan, and, like, a guy came to talk to him about the water warriors, and then he wanted to be a water warrior for, like, decades, but it just now started to come up, and you're like, what is going on? Parker gets killed. He dies.
Spoilers! Spoilers!
He dies. I don't care.
Spoilers! Parker deserved to die.
No, he didn't.
Remember how long it took?
Hey guys, Zach Schonkweiler here. You may recognize me from my previous appearances right here on Dude's Brunch, in which I sound like a total asshole. But I'm actually a pretty ordinary guy, with an extremely ordinary podcast called Ordinary Folk, which is now part of the Dude's Brunch network. On Ordinary Folk, I like to sit down with people who I've met that I find truly interesting because of their passions and what they do, and try to have a unique conversation, finding out why it is they do what they do, and how they got to where they are now. It's quite a glorious adventure of curiosity and conversation, if I do say so myself, and I think I just did. If that premise sounds pretty cool to you, feel free to check us out on iTunes or Google Play. Until then, stay tuned and stay ordinary, friends.
I feel like this show borrows heavily from a lot of media really over the last like 10, 15 years in this like reality TV parody style. Mm-hmm. Like you can see a lot of influences of things like The Office or Reno 911 or something like that in this. I see a lot of Reno 911 in this. My problem is all of those shows, probably because they were on network television, they have, or like a Modern Family, for example, they have like a structure to them. And there's not necessarily like specific story beats, but there's like a box within which, like there's a sandbox that is established and you can play inside the sandbox, but you can't leave the sandbox. And The Office tried to do that for a season after Steve Carell left, and it didn't work very well for them. And I feel like watching Sugar Pine 7 is like watching that one season of The Office where they kept bringing in new managers over and over and over again. I'm just like, I just need this to settle down and be like even remotely consistent with itself. Because it's just all over the place.
Point. It's the whole goddamn point.
That being said, we showed you like 3 that are presumably like kind of like the biggest like narrative and like very like slightly more cinematic ones. There's episodes where just I'm like, what even happened?
Sometimes nothing happens.
Sometimes literally nothing happens. And
there was one where they went on a hike and like that's all they did. They just went on a hike. And it was just them on I can't remember what they were trying to find, but they were trying to find something and they couldn't find it and they kept getting lost. And it felt like vlog content, but just funnier. But like, it's
even that's exciting.
Yeah.
Like, there's one where they just try a bunch of tacos. And that was like it. And, there's like a taco contest. Like there's
I think, Taylor, to me, the sandbox is the group of characters. That's my sandbox.
And maybe that's it. Maybe I just haven't spent enough time with it to get to know the characters. Because the way you're describing it now, with like episodes where literally nothing happens, it feels a lot more to me like shows I used to watch on MTV back in the day. Like Viva La Bam or Robin Big or things like that. Yeah, where like the show is really just about the people, and you can like come up with whatever stupid thing you want them to do, but at the end of the day, it's about Bam Margera and his friends, or Rob Dyrdek and Big Black. I just feel like maybe I don't know the characters well enough to get that attachment here.
Probably
I would say
not.
that's a definite possibility, is what I would probably agree with that, because I mean, really, those shows were similar without the supernatural elements to it.
Poor Autumn. Just.
He doesn't even know who that
Autumn.
even is.
I don't.
Taylor doesn't know who.
Wait, he didn't see any episodes with Autumn in it?
No.
Oh, I love Autumn.
Well, okay, that's fine. They hired an editor, and basically for like 10 episodes, she really just sat there on the computer and was just
so
editing a video,
good.
and they it was kind of actually the worst part of the series, because they really just shit on her really hard for basically no
But
reason.
she didn't care. That's the thing. She was just sitting there. Like, they would come visit her house, and she would have, like, stuff on the ground, and he'd be like, "What are you, an animal? Why do you have all this shit on the ground?" And she's like, "Can we talk about work? Like, I need to, like, edit these videos." Like, that is, like, how she reacted to everything for a while. And it was, like, the funniest thing to me for some reason. That was good. I liked that. But what were we even saying? I mean, it's something to be like, theoretically with YouTube series like this, you should be able to watch a couple episodes and like understand completely what's going on. But I wouldn't liken this too much to a YouTube series as I would to like television in a way.
Sure.
It feels like very just short form television.
Which is probably why people suggested that with earlier episodes, because they had less, they were more sort of serialized, so it's more like a cartoon almost. But it kind of gets into like plot lines, because like I said, characters apparently die and things happen, and so you're like, if I had Taylor watch an episode in the middle of something, there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to be said that doesn't make any sense. Now, granted, they say lots of things that don't make any sense at all, and so sometimes you can barely tell the difference between those two things. But,
Oh, Parker.
but okay, Taylor, did you have a favorite character? Was there one person that you really like? I guess this is the one I like the most.
Up until the one where he's possessed by a demon, Parker's not bad.
That's because you are Parker.
Sure, okay. I don't know.
No, it's just you have the same kind of vibe.
That's fine. I can tell you I don't like Kib at all. Easily my least favorite character.
That's right. But for
I'm
some
so
reason,
sad.
he holds it all together for some reason.
I love Kid.
I think that's maybe what it is like, I would like his character more if there was less of him. Like,
Sure.
he just features so
Yeah.
prominently and everything that I'm like, boy, it would be nice to have anyone else drive the plot of this section. James seems fine. The creepy one that they think is killing people is vaguely interesting. I can't remember his name. Jeremy, yeah.
Jeremy.
And then there's just a character that just he's like, who's that guy again?
Yeah. I like that. That was
Which
a nice touch. I don't know. I agree with you that I feel like Steven is probably the most bland character, but I really enjoy the moments where he like lets some of his personality shine through, especially when he's being meta. So there's a great moment in the one where I can't think of his name. The one we were just talking about.
James, Kib,
No. Parker.
Jeremy, Parker.
It's very
The
hard to
last
tell
one.
them apart as well. In the one where Parker's possessed, as he's like running down the bridge, Steven says, "Holy shit, he's really fast. This isn't worth it, not even for a bit." And I liked that as a moment of like, I'm glad that they're keeping in these little like subtextual things of like who these people really are. But at the same time, they also like go to great lengths to just completely obscure like the real personalities of the people, even though they're playing themselves. And that's part of the reason why I never really enjoyed a show like Reno 911. And I think that might be part of why this just isn't quite for me.
So now, Reno 911 was completely scripted? Partially scripted? I don't actually remember,
It was
'cause-
partially scripted.
Were they actually arresting people?
Everyone that they arrested wasn't like an actor or in some way in on the bit. The bystanders were not.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's more like a Borat situation.
Interesting. Okay. Do I need to watch that show? Should I watch Reno?
I think you should give Reno a chance if you like this. I mean, it's a little bit lower brow humor than this is, but it follows a similar structure.
I mean, I definitely watched episodes of it when it was on because that was during the time when there wasn't
Anything on TV.
good internet. There wasn't a content machine called YouTube. And I remember just not getting it. To be fair, I also watched Arrested Development and didn't get it. I was a very stupid child. I'm still kind of stupid, but that's beside the point.
Well, and it wasn't exactly a show for young people either.
Sure, that's probably fair. I don't know if 14, 16-year-old me was going to enjoy or appreciate Reno 911 regardless of what the context was.
But yeah, there's just something about that, like, people playing themselves or playing characters like themselves but not really being a real person that just doesn't work for me. I don't know why.
So they won this award. It was a crowd vote. So it was just number of retweets or whatever basically won this thing. And so during their campaign, when they were really trying to get people to vote for him, they had two things that were pretty big, like, I think, moments. The less monumental one was that Steven was like, I will shave my head if we get X amount of retweets for this. And you're like, well, that's fine. I mean, he has hair, and so not having hair is unfortunate. Well, I mean, whatever. And so then the real one that I feel like probably helped was that Autumn, which, a character you don't know, but she's on the show. She's an editor. Was like, I will get someone's name tattooed on my butt if we get this many retweets. And so Alfredo, which is played by many people and is someone just in a funny voice, but he might be an alien. Doesn't matter. But his name's Alfredo. And so that won a vote to get his name tattooed on there. And so that was like just the biggest thing because you're like, oh my God, I can't believe someone went through with doing this. And so it's like, did they win because it was a genuinely good show? Did they win because of these stunts? You know, like, did they just want it the most? I mean, is it all of the above? I feel like it probably is a little bit of all those columns.
I don't know, because other people pulled that. Like, Philip DeFranco did if you retweet this much. Technically, it was Joe Nation who was his, like, vlog guy. I love Philip DeFranco's vlogs so much that it's not even funny. Like, the vlogs, but not the show. Like, I won't watch. Yeah, but no, this is the point. So, basically, he was like, if we get to this many retweets, like, Phil is gonna take me to Toys R Us and we're gonna walk down the aisle and hold hands and pick out a toy. And if we reach this many, we're gonna turn the room into a ball pit. And so, like, other people were pulling those stunts. And on top of that, once again, I feel like I still don't understand, not content-wise. Like, I think they have the most interesting content out of the people that were nominated for the category. But in sheer terms of number of fans, they should not have won. And I don't understand.
How much YouTube do you watch, Emily?
A lot of YouTube. I watch a shit ton of YouTube.
When you say that, how much actually is that?
Like, what are you talking about? I watch it more than I watch TV.
I mean, so do I, but I watch a lot of garbage.
Like, how would you like me to quantify it?
I don't know. Let's see here. What's a good way to quantify that? History? No? I don't know. How many videos do you watch in a day, would you say?
It depends. From my subscription box, probably. I watch a lot of vloggers, so they're like 20-minute long things sometimes. So today probably like 2 to 3 hours of it. So, like, I watched like 5 from my subscription box, and then I went on like a rabbit hole of watching people's old vlogs for a while. I'm pretty familiar with it.
That seems fair. I mean, if those are 10-minute videos,
Yeah,
that's a lot. That's a lot.
I'm fairly familiar with a lot of YouTube history and a lot of YouTube culture, because I started getting like hooked on it back in high school, I think, and then I just kind of watched it consistently. It started with the Green Brothers, but
Gotcha. Yeah. Also that.
Like old school Green Brothers.
Yeah. So what's your YouTube intake look like now, Taylor?
Way lower than it used to be. Hearing Emily talk about this, it's really interesting because when we were in college together, I feel like I was the weird YouTube kid in a lot of our classes. And I watched like just an insane amount of YouTube at the time. But a lot of the creators that I used to watch pretty regularly have gone away.
Who are you thinking of?
Zay Frank, Alex Day, Charlie.
Oh, because
of extenuating circumstances, yeah. Charlie McDonald still makes videos, but they're like really rare and infrequent, and they're all science videos now. He doesn't do vlogs anymore, which is really upsetting. Mitchell Davis is doing like scripted like short films now and working sometimes with Logan Paul, so I don't really watch him anymore. Crab Sticks went away and then came back and then went away and then came back, and I don't even know where he is anymore. I feel like pretty much the whole YouTube scene that I watched back then, other than like the Green Brothers, CGP Grey, yeah, that's basically it. I mean, I watch all of their videos when they come out, and then maybe once a week I'll watch like a Casey Neistat video. I'll just pick like whichever one has the coolest sounding title. And it's mostly...
And it's about how often he uploads, though.
Yeah, and it's mostly just to see what he's doing more than anything. Like, to see, you know, are his numbers still going up? Is he still doing that weird endorsement thing with Samsung that he has going on? There was a minute there where Marquez Brownlee of MKBHD was doing a vlog series where he was, like, going around to other creators and... interviewing them about their workspace and doing almost like cribs, but for people's like studios. And that was super cool, and I watched a bunch of that, but he hasn't really kept it updated, unfortunately. So
yeah, let's watch. That sounds good.
Yeah, it was really cool. I'll put a link in the show notes.
I feel like a lot of the people that you were talking about, Zay Frank what's he running now? He's working with BuzzFeed. Yeah, so he's around. He's just like touching, like he's got his hands in a bunch of different things. But like, I feel like everybody that you referenced got burnt out.
Yeah, and I think I got burnt out with them, to be honest. I mean, the YouTube community had a really bad spell of drama there around the time that all that stuff with Alex Day came out, and a bunch of people left.
Well,
I think the algorithm also changed 10 billion times.
Yeah, there was a bunch of algorithm changes at the time. The subscription box wasn't working right at the time. They were doing a big redesign of the site. There was a lot of stuff going wrong. And so it just kind of drove me away for a while, and I haven't really picked it back up as much.
And that's fair. I mean, I feel like it's really become like since you've left, essentially.
I mean, I haven't left. Really I've just kind of stepped back.
Right, but it's definitely higher intensity of like gaming content, you know, so it's like I think that's really sort of been the shift. And now it's just like, from my perspective, it's almost just a bunch of Twitch streams as VODs that are like 30 minutes to an hour, and of course that gets good revenue because the algorithm now benefits minute watch rather than whatever it used to be, where it was like, if they completed the video, you know, then you got a lot, you know. A 3-minute video is better than a 3-hour video. But now it's like, if you watch 3 hours of someone's video, you're gonna get a lot more benefit than watching as many of that in 10-minute videos. So
it's interesting because that part of YouTube, the streaming Twitch channel part of YouTube, is not the part of YouTube that I'm in. So it's interesting to hear because I've seen it shift like almost exclusively to vlogging content, which probably came around after like I don't know when it made this switch. A lot of young Viners and a lot of young lifestyle gurus and stuff like that. A lot of people who used to be beauty gurus just moved towards vlogging. And that's what I've really seen now. But I know that gaming is a huge part of YouTube. Like probably like, yeah, it's a shit ton of YouTube.
Well,
I get
so there's
that.
an interesting point that you made there too, Emily, of it's not the part of YouTube that you're in. Because I think part of what was challenging for me with YouTube was when I first got into it and when you first got into it, it was much smaller.
Yeah.
And it really did feel like everybody knew each other. Like the viewers didn't all know each other, but all the creators we were watching all knew each other. And like, I remember the first VidCon. Like I didn't go to it, but I remember seeing the videos from the first VidCon, and it would be like, oh yeah, here's everyone you watch on YouTube, and they're all in each other's videos because they are this conference, like these 12 or 24 people. And now it's such a big thing that, yeah, like you can have Tyler's Gaming YouTube that's completely separate from everything that you watch.
Yeah.
And
like very
that's done such a strange thing for the community of the site that, like, I don't know. It makes sense to me how it creates content like Sugar Pine 7, right? Like, this parody of a parody of a parody. It's, like, so derivative, and it's got such a fiercely loyal fan base that, like, anybody from the outside looking in on this show, unless you've been around YouTube for a while, this will make no sense to you whatsoever.
Right.
But the Pauls, though, no, I'm kidding. No, that completely makes sense. It's definitely made for an audience that is aware of the dynamics of YouTube. I think that's completely true.
So what would be, like, we will put a link to the episodes that you picked for me to watch as starter episodes, because I do think they were a good start. But what would you say, like, how would you pitch this show to somebody who is listening to this podcast and hasn't watched it before, doesn't really know what it is, maybe is, like, vaguely familiar with YouTube culture? Like, what would you say to them?
So what happened, me IRL, was that I was really into it, and I was like, hey Catherine, you should watch this show with me because we like to watch YouTube before bed, whatever. And she's like, I don't get any of this. What's going on? Like, I just, whatever the latest episode was. And, you know, very rarely do we just stop watching something, but we're like, let's just watch something else. Because it was just like, none of this makes any sense. It was so, like, disjointed for everything, and it was so, like, LOXD random for her that she's like, I can't do this. This is dumb. And so, how do you pitch it? I think that's what's kind of hard about it. It feels like a very inside baseball kind of show, in that you just kind of have to want to watch it. You like, hey, do you remember that guy from SourceFed? He's doing a bunch of cool cinematography in a vlogging alternative reality kind of show. You're like, that doesn't sound fun at all. Why would I watch that? I think that's a very hard message to pitch. Because someone that used to explain board games to people, it was some games you just can't. You just have to think that it looks interesting and then play it. Because I'm like, oh, it's this game about farming in the Mediterranean, and you're like, that sounds boring as hell. Like, trust me, it's really fun.
Do you plan for WWDC like it's your birthday?
Do you have strong opinions on Snapchat filters?
Are you tired of 3-hour-long tech podcasts?
Then you should check out 10-Minute Tech Talk. It's a show Emily and I make every single Tuesday where we catch you up on a week's worth of technology news in just 10 minutes. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Overcast, Google Play, and basically anywhere else you can get podcasts.
So this week, I found this really cool anime. It's called Dragon Ball Z. And I really just want you all to just kind of watch and I just want you to see how you feel about it. You know, we can just, it's about 2 minutes worth of content.
Links in the show notes as always.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Taylor, you want to hit play at the same time?
Let's do it.
1, 2, 3. I hate this. I hate this so much.
What?
This is someone's kink.
Oh.
Just FYI. Like, this is for sure someone's kink.
All right, so hey everybody, you just got bamboozled.
I knew by the YouTube title, man.
Right.
You're doing me a bamboozle.
You underestimate my dedication to ASMR.
So I feel like we've talked about this in a previous episode. I feel like we've talked about ASMR, but if you're
We've
not
definitely
familiar,
talked about ASMR.
We
Do
talked
we
about
need to discuss what that
Sandisfying.
is?
No, if you're listening to this podcast and you don't know what ASMR is, just Google it.
we just had a Into the Woods conversation about meta YouTube. I think that you understand what ASMR is, but anyway, so this is done by a guy named Octopimp. He generally does like anime content. He does lots of redubs or like a bridge series. So I found this on like just someone like retweeted on Twitter, and I was like, oh my god, this has to be this. We have to at least watch one. This is like what internet garbage is.
It is?
This is like the epitome of it.
So tell the people what
It
this
is.
is, first and foremost.
So this is a 2-minute clip, believe it or not, of Goku going into Super Saiyan 3. And so everyone's being very in their best ASMR voice. And so yeah, and so it's everything's redubbed, and it's just very quiet, very, very, very whisper voice. And as you would imagine, a show with lots of yelling in it, it's basically someone whisper yelling for about 30 seconds. If that doesn't give you the tinkles, the crinkle tinkles, I don't know what does.
Oh, man. This is not my ASMR. This is not my part. I can't ever watch the videos where they're like whispering into the camera. Like, I can't do that. But this was freaking hysterical.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
This
I'm
is
so glad this
super funny.
exists.
I don't get ASMR at all. Like, it just doesn't work for me. But this is
It doesn't do anything for you.
so funny.
It's so good. It's just like the like unintentional. It's very intentional. Like the little, especially when you grew up like watching Dragon Ball Z, and you were like always. Those moments are always so intense. It was so good. I will be going to sponges and slime for my ASMR needs, though.
Oh, that's right. It was you. You're the one who we talked about ASMR with.
I wasn't on. Taylor just mentioned it.
Oh, that's
like,
right. 'Cause you're the sandcastles. The sandy thing.
Oh no, I am not into the sand anymore. I'm into the slime now.
Oh, jeez.
It's so much better. It's so much better, but not better than this. Because that is hysterical, and I hope that he makes some form of money off of that, because that's good content.
Not with the apocalypse, but you know.
I just love that, like, they could have just whispered the Goku parts, but the fact that he found presumably different people to whisper the voices of all of the characters in this scene, it's like completely overkill, but I absolutely love it.
I actually really love this. I'm going to send this to like 4 people.
Oh, I already have, as we're
Because-
recording this.
I'm so excited about it. Tyler, this is such great internet garbage.
Primo.
That-
Primo.
And
Yeah,
this is and of course we're saying this. Sometimes internet garbage sometimes is sincere, in that we appreciate this as legitimate things that people can enjoy. Sometimes it's actual trash that belongs in the dumpster. This is definitely one of the more sincere versions of internet garbage where you're like, this took time. this took some skill, and you're gonna share this around the watering hole at work the next morning.
This is a good one, Tyler.
It's a great one. I'm so impressed.
It's time to wrap up the podcast like we always do, with a round of shameless plugs. We'll start with Tyler Reed. Tyler, where can the people find you?
Hey everybody, this is usually the part where I do it in ASMR voice, but I've already done that at least 5 times. So you can find my design, illustration, and motion design work at tylerdreed.com, and you can find me on the socials as TDR Design on Instagram and Twitter. It's Inktober, and I'm gonna be trying to do a sketch, a full illustrated thing, and then do a motion animation throughout the month for a bunch of different things. I'm gonna be focusing on yokai. So if you want to follow that adventure, follow me.
Emily Bamforth, where can the people find you?
That's super cool. I didn't know Inktober was a thing. Sorry, that was a side note.
That's fine.
I was just like, that's a cool thing Tyler's doing. I'm going to follow along with that. You can find me at Emily M. Bamforth on Twitter for a combination of otter pictures, random science facts, and local Cleveland news. But we have a podcast called 10 Minute Tech Talk. Taylor and I do. It is it's up on Wednesdays.
Usually late Tuesday evening or early Wednesday morning.
Yeah, though this week I think we might record on Monday, so we'll see. We have that going on. I'm very excited. We're going to talk about Amazon, I think. Taylor's like, yes, we are going to talk about Amazon. What else can I tell you? I was on a podcast called The Second Shot Podcast with 2 great guys, George Dunn and Devin Newson. They basically had people on to talk about things that they need to give a second shot. And I made them watch The Bachelorette, which these guys know when I make you watch reality TV, it is always an event.
It's an experience.
You get wine drunk, you watch reality TV, you have deep relationship chats. And so you can go listen to that Second Shot podcast. And I think that's everything I have to plug.
Well, you can, of course, follow me on the socials as at TC Olmstead. And you can like and follow the show on the socials. We're at Dudes Brunch or our Dudes Brunch on Reddit. That's our subreddit. We do Twitch streams every Thursday night. We play video games and do witty banter, so that's always fun. And of course, if you really like what we do around here, you could leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. That would be super great. It helps people find the show. Other than that, thanks for listening, everybody, and we will see you next week for another episode of Dudes Brunch. This feels so much longer than 2 minutes. I want to die.
It is so uncomfortable.